So we've made it through step one, starting step two, being your best you. So if you're still here, that's a good thing. The student success idea you've shown getting through the first couple of weeks. Look, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And that's what differentiates the graduate from the non, is the persistence and the willingness to do it. So we're moving into step two, week three. Again, yeah, that's confusing, but it is the way it is. Just a little bit of tech time as we jump into step two. And I mentioned it in the video where we looked at the electronic library, did some searching around, talked about the idea of an abstract, a summary, as opposed to reading a whole article. And really part of the focus of that video, or the electronic library piece of it at least, was to show how making a very specific, very finite search limits the amount of hits you get. So one of the pieces I talked about, and I did a poor job thinking back on it, is that pro-con website. You may run into a class where you have to do what's known as an argumentative paper. The typical papers, we call them expository. Again, a big brain term in academia. You're telling a story. It's an expose. You're explaining something. But sometimes you have to put together what's called an argumentative paper, and that's where you look at the pro and the con of an issue. And remember, that goes back to being objective, of not just taking the one side and running with it, right? So I figured that would be the only piece of tech time today. Show you the pro-con website. If I'm talking about it, I should probably show it to you. So let's do this. If you just go and do a search, just type in pro-con. And in this case, it came up the first thing, procon.org. And you can see the address. Here's what it looks like. And it's through Encyclopedia Britannica, which is one of the databases that was in the school electronic library. And the pictures that are scrolling through are some of the most current pro-con. This one about statehood for Puerto Rico or Washington, D.C. But let's scroll down a little bit. And you can see the most popular: health and medicine, education. And look, we use this just as an example to kind of facilitate our search. But health and medicine, medical marijuana, top of the list. So let's just follow this for a couple clicks and see where it leads us so you can see a little bit more about the website. Should it be an option? Last updated. A little bit dated, some of this information. So again, maybe that's where that you whittle down your search criteria to the last couple years. So this is a good starting point, and see what's happened specifically in the state of Georgia, what we were talking about in 2020 and 2021, which again makes those, what do we end up with, like 17 articles, something like that, something that was manageable. Right? And if you notice in the article, there are links that take you to U.S. code, right? Laws of the country. So that's useful. And then pros and cons by category. So it breaks down the overall issue into some maybe sub areas. So the overall core question right there, and then diseases, conditions, maybe where medical marijuana can be useful, risks, right? So you see right here this pro and con style develop. Okay, a lot of it. Here's another thing. Keep scrolling down. You've got quotes that you might be able to use in a paper, right? Give credit to who quoted it. But here, top 10 pro and con. This kind of distills down what the biggest issues are with the legalization of medical marijuana, right? Historical timeline. Super useful when it comes to either just informing yourself or writing a paper about it. So let's just look at the top 10 pro and con and see how it breaks it down, pro, con, in two different format, two different sides. This guy Sanjay Gupta, he's on TV all the time. He's the medical chief on CNN. Right? So there you go. There was one more thing I wanted to show you. Let's go back. You may also like popular in the community, and then there's a discussion forum that's can be interesting. People tend to go off on rants in some of those, But again, I just wanted to show you this, and you may find it useful. We're not going to do an argumentative paper in this class. In fact, I focus more on building presentations because you guys tend to get more on the way of writing papers in your English composition classes, things like that. So don't feel bad. We're not writing a 1,000-word paper in this class, right? And most people are like, yeah, I don't feel bad at all. All right, so let's jump into our slides that correspond with the videos. And I can go ahead. There's quite a few links in this, and I'll explain them more when we get there. I put a little text box explaining what they are. One of them has to do with a band that, look, I'm old, right? And probably most of you haven't even heard of them, and I would say all but maybe one or two of you would enjoy their music, but it's not the point of the music. It's the point of professionalism when we get there. And I'll try to explain that. So if you want to watch them, go ahead. But there's one you definitely want to watch. So here we are, 2 weeks complete, starting the 3rd week in a 7-week course. Holy mackerel. That means as we get through this week, we're about a third of the way through. So again, this B term, time compression. Yes, step 1 had a lot of videos and slides, but it had so much to cover. Now this step, probably end up doing 4 videos, and you're like, geez, that's so much. But think about this. If this was a full semester where it wasn't just the B term, we'd meet twice a week, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and each of those meetings would be an hour and a half. And so what I'm doing is the 4 classroom sessions in a normal semester are now put into a week in our B term semester. And I'm only doing, so far I've been 45 minutes, and I try to keep them certainly less than an hour. So we're actually in a little abbreviated mode, if you will. Because if we were in class, we'd be spending more time together, which I miss, honestly, because, discussions start to go here, there, and everywhere. And that's part of the fun of college is expressing yourself, your opinion, listening to other people's opinions, listening to things, and you go, I never thought of it that way. So don't don't complain. I don't know what the right word is. Just understand that even with the amount of slides and videos that we're doing, we're still doing actually a little bit less than we would in a normal classroom, which personally I don't like because it means we're missing some things, but that's just the way it is. So still here, sign of success. I already said that, right? Keep plugging. What you'll find is you get toward the Thanksgiving break, your motivation usually when you start a semester is up here. And as time goes on, it starts to decrease. That happens too with the overall approach to school. That first semester up here, as you get into your sophomore year, if you're going for your associate's degree, same thing happens. And you don't see a rise in motivation until that last semester typically, where you see the light at the end of the tunnel. So understand the sophomore jinx is out there, and it affects everybody. Nobody stays up here motivation-wise as they go through school. But as it drops off, one of the differences is you have to kick yourself in the backside to keep your motivation up, right? I'm not doing it for you. I try to make this stuff engaging and talk about things beyond the textbook, but you are responsible for your education, okay? Excuse me. Oh, that probably just blew everybody. I should have paused. Sorry. One of the other things, feedback-wise, I don't blow smoke. Now, the first worksheet, I'm a little lenient on, short answers, but I guarantee you're going to see, give me more, tell me why, explain your thinking. So thorough answers. This is college, not high school. Get it done so I can get it off my list of things to do. This is get it done so I learn something about myself. All right, we already did the tech time. Yeah, sharing documents. One of the things, just anytime you have to submit something, the easiest way to do it is email it to me either through Blackboard or the school email system and just send it as an attachment. You can also share things through that Office 365. Just remember you have to give me permission to open it, okay, so I can look at it. And how I do it, you've seen it now with the first worksheet, and it'll continue throughout the semester, is I actually print out what you guys send me and write on it, or take what you sent me in a Word document and type in red. That's not bad. It's just so you can tell what I'm talking about, and then attach it and send it back to you. That's your feedback mechanism. If you see something you don't understand If it happens to be a handwritten one and my writing, it's horrible, you can't figure out what the heck I'm talking about, ask, right? Send me an email, text me. What does this mean? What can I do better? If you see a 0 in my grades, remember we talked about my grades as part of the Blackboard system. I'm not going to pull it up here, but if you see a 0, look, check my grades often. Sometimes it'll help back you up that, oh man, I forgot to turn that in. And remember, late policy says you've got a few days, you're going to lose a few points, yes, but it's better than a 0. So keep an eye on my grades and it gives you a good running total, right? The calendar function and the last page of the syllabus. All those things are there. So late or no assignment turned in, you're not doing a good job on time management. It's simple as that. What I see typically, and this happens with every class, is the video views start off with, we've got whatever, 25 students, let's say. And I see 25, 26, some people view it twice. But as the semester progresses, those video views start to decrease. Right? Remember, you view a little bit of it. I've talked to on chat rooms some people last year that while they were sitting waiting to pick up their kid, if you've got the ability to get YouTube on your smartphone, they would pull it up and watch some of it there. So those little pockets of time, we'll talk more about that when we get into time management, but using it, you're sitting in the doctor's office, watch some of the video. Okay? There's places to do that as opposed to just flipping through People magazine at 17 years old. Chat, try it, you might like it. That's where we can get into further discussions or answer questions or get to know other students. It's kind of the closest we can get to the classroom. So remember those times. Front page of the syllabus lists these. And if there are occasions, not often, where I can't make it, I may either change the window and I'll put that in announcements, or I'll just say, hey, the Monday chat is canceled. I've got something else I have to do. And I try to make that as infrequent as possible. And look, if there's another time that might work for you, and I get 2, 3, 4 students say, hey, do Thursday evenings, can we do one? I'll do it, right? I'm happy to do that. In step 2, there's a large section in the textbook about test taking. Now we covered that in step 1 in preparation for the quiz. It seemed like it fit better there in my mind. But I would recommend looking through the textbook as well because they go into a little bit more detail on test taking skills and strategies. Mine was kind of a quick once over the world type, but I would still look this over even though we've covered it already, just for your benefit. Okay. Talking about the Why College worksheet, one of the reasons for college is it sounds kind of crass, but to talk truth to stupid. That's why I put that bullet on one of the slides. The idea that we should know what's going on, to be informed. And there is a difference between wisdom and knowledge. To me, Mike's opinion, and you probably saw this on your paper, it's not to say mine is the only opinion, but knowledge is what we know, we learn through reading, through watching other people, through trial and error, trial and success. Wisdom to me is how we use our knowledge. I've met some people, and you probably have as well, that are extremely book smart but have absolutely no common sense because they don't know how to put that book knowledge into action. So that's me. The wise man is the one that knows a lot and knows how to use it. Okay? Greatest strength, greatest weakness was not to try to be nosy. It's that the first step in getting better, greatest weakness, is admitting what it is. That's why I put it out there. And greatest strength, here's a thought. If you're good at something, keep doing what you're doing, but still try to get better. And don't let it atrophy. Don't let it die away. Oh, I'm good at that. I don't need to practice it anymore. What you'll find is, that slips away. So think about that. What can you do to overcome this weakness? You have the answer. I about guarantee it. But if you want some other thoughts on it, what can I do? My test, I stress out for tests. That's a common one. Well, preparation, relaxation, knowing some of those tips to test taking, and not trying to memorize every bloody thing in the book. That's a big one. As you go through college, you'll find you get better at recognizing key concepts, words of the day, things I repeat over and over again, things in the textbook that are bolded. Really focus on those, right? And the most common answer, it is again this time around, my biggest fear about college is failing. And I'm not blowing smoke. You control probably 95% of the things that might cause you to fail in college. Motivation, focus, time management are the big three. If you know that, doesn't that make you feel a little better, right? As we're getting into this class now, hey, this is a lot different than I thought it was going to be. Making a mountain out of a molehill because we don't know. Now we're starting to learn about what college is like. It ain't so bad. Yes, it's a fair bit of work. Yes, you have to make answers that aren't 2 words, but you can do it. You control success or failure. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer to pass and get your degree. I promise. That persistence, aptitude, brain power is important, but attitude, in Mike's humble opinion, is just as or maybe even more important in college success. Right. With a little preachy. All right, a concept for you. The idea of scholarship. If I said this in the class, I said, what does it mean? What's scholarship? A lot of the answers, and it's a correct answer, is the idea of I got a football scholarship. My youngest son had a soccer scholarship. Played a lot of soccer, didn't go to school much, flunked out. Okay, that is a definition. But the one I want to drill down on is this. Academic study or achievement, learning at a high level. We're trying to learn at a higher level than high school. We're trying to understand objectivity, to see through spin, to plan ahead and be proactive. So that's the idea. We're trying to be better scholars. So the question that follows is, well, who decided if you did your best in high school? Often the answer becomes the teacher, because they graded your work, right? Graded tests, graded papers. That's probably at least partially accurate, but then the follow-on question is this: who decides if you did your best in college? And the answer is you do. You know if you're giving it your best. You know if you're, pardon my French, half-assing your assignments. If you're waiting till the last minute, oh, I got 10 minutes to get this worksheet turned in, and you just type some crap in, you're not doing your best. What does that go back to? Time management. You decide if you do your best. I'm not going to chase you down the hall to make you turn stuff in. A little insight on me. I mentioned I went to my undergraduate in Daytona Beach, right, Embry-Riddle. I did not do my best. Yeah, I graduated. I had just over a 3.0, but I told you guys I almost got kicked out my first spring semester. So in hindsight, when I went and got my master's and certainly getting my PhD, I matured. I was immature in that 18 to 22 year old window. And I really applied myself and did my best. And the outcome was I learned more, because really that's the idea. It's not, people get overly wrapped up in getting the diploma, right? Hey, I'm done. I've got that. I can put it on my resume. Yes, that's true. But it's what you learn along the way that's really going to get you into your career and succeed. The diploma might open the door, right? Get you an interview. But once you go to that interview, if you don't know what you're talking about, you're doomed. So do your best. All right, words of the day. Just a couple. You guys have heard this: sympathy, right? It's a Southern expression, bless his heart. Translation, he's so stupid, right? Little Johnny falls down, skins his knee. Grandma says, bless his heart. She's thinking, what an idiot. Pity or sorrow for someone else's misfortune. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel bad for somebody. Something bad happened in their life. Absolutely. But there's maybe, especially as we get into the discussion on leadership toward the end of step 2, there's a more powerful concept out there, and that's empathy. And they sound alike and they're similar, but they're not the same. The ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Empathy means you put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. And as a leader, that's highly important. Yes, I can feel sorry for an employee, had a death in the family, absolutely. But if I understand what's going on, that makes it, I get to know my people more. That makes a good leader. So let me give you a quick example. This happened in school in a college success class a few years ago. I had a student, she was always 10 minutes late to class. And it started kind of bugging me. And I didn't say anything about it, but it's like, geez, Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. So I go, hey, so-and-so, you're always 10 minutes late. Can you not get up a little bit earlier? What's going on? And she goes, no, I have to get off work, go get my kid. She worked graveyard shift. Get my kid, get him to school, and then I come straight here. And so just, the schedule was such, there was no other time I could take this class, and this is the best I could do. I I had to ask the question instead of just being angry with her in my own little mind. Now I understood what was going on. And was I mad when she was late? No. In fact, we figured out a way that, hey, the first little bit that you miss, can you stay 10 minutes after, and we'll cover what I've covered with everybody else. So it changed the whole dynamic of how I felt about that student. And we're all kind of that way. Now, what I would say, and I told her this, is the first day of class, let the instructor know. If you've got something going on, let them know. We're not ogres, most of us, right? We do have empathy. Now, we're not going to say, oh, sorry, every week, every assignment's turned in late. No. So understand the difference there. How do they apply to leadership? Do they? Well, I've sort of hinted at it. Absolutely, they do. And we're going to go back to this. So think about it. How does being empathetic help you as a leader? Now, look, a little piece on leadership, just to go off on a tangent. You have had, I'm sure, good and bad leaders that you've worked for. You can learn from both of them. And I'll repeat this later too. Good leaders, you try to emulate. You try to do like they do. Bad leaders, you don't want to do like they do, so learn from them as well. Don't do what they do. A lot more on leadership, because going to college tells me you want to do something more with your life, which means down the road you are going to be a leader in some form or fashion. You may already be one. Okay? And there's a quote. It comes from a band of one of my favorite bands named Marillion. And I use music quite a bit in my class. So you're going to see more videos as we go down the road. Right. Circle of success. I've seen several textbooks that have a circle of success that's very limited. It's like a back and forth. Do good, better expectation. Do good, just bounces around. This one I think is better. And I want to start with that successful performance. That's why the arrow's there. You can start anywhere on the circle of success. That's the whole idea of a circle. But let's say you do something well. You got a great test score on the midterm. Your feedback on one of your worksheets is just, this is great stuff. That should make you feel better. It's internal. Good job. Hold that thought. Which leads to that second piece, the positive self-image. I do a good job. It makes me feel better about myself. My attitude improves. Remember, a lot of students, when they start, go, man, this is going to be hard. I'm not going to be able to do it. Well, as you start having successful performances in school, this happens and your attitude goes up. And guess what? You start to expect more of yourself. And so do I. So as we go through the semester, we get to December, the same thing that got you a 90 in October isn't going to get you a 90 in December, because I expect more as well, which leads to this improved behavior. Right? If I expect more from myself, I'm going to study more. I'm going to give better, more thorough answers. I'm going to explain why I think this way. And you can see that leads us right back to where we started, that successful performance. And so this continues, and you spiral upwards, and you become more successful, and you get better. That's all good. Now here's the thing. Let's change successful to unsuccessful. What if you just fail a test? You just blow it out of the water, as we used to say. It's horrible. What can that lead to? This next link is the most important in my mind. If you have an unsuccessful performance, could that not lead to a negative self-image, negative attitude, lower expectations, worse behavior, and you start spiraling downwards? So here's the thing. If you mess something up, and we all do, you go, what happened? Why did it happen? How can I do it better next time? So don't let the step from the bad performance to a negative self-image develop. Look, making mistakes can help you learn, as long as you're wise enough to go, yeah, I messed that up, and here's why. I didn't study enough. I did the worksheet with 10 minutes left, whatever it is. And then go, but I know what I did wrong. I can do it better. So when it comes around to this next performance, you've learned something, you can do it better. And you start that upward spiral again. So don't let that downward spiral happen. I swear that's probably, I don't know, 80% of why students end up dropping out of college is they start down the road of that didn't go so well. Their attitude starts to sink. And when that happens, remember I said attitude is as important as brain power, maybe more so. So there's your attitude in a circle. For sake of time, and unfortunately this really doesn't work unless we want to do it in the chat, and I'm happy to do that. We live in a world now where you get a participation trophy. Just showing up means you get something. And I ask what people think of that. Is that a positive or a negative? And let me just give you a snippet and then we'll move on. For a bunch of 5-year-olds learning how to play soccer, a little medal for playing, I don't see any issue with that, right? Makes them happy. They're just, amoeba soccer. The little crowd follows the ball around. But as you get into the upper levels of high school, athletics, academics, whatever it is, I don't personally think you should be rewarded for showing up. We reward mediocrity in our culture far too much. Just doing your job does not mean you get a good job or a pat on the back. Now look, I may sound like I'm being just an ogre, and maybe some of it comes from the military. If you weren't getting yelled at, you were doing pretty good. You got a pat on the back if you went above and beyond. And that's my opinion. Same thing with these awards. You don't get an award for just showing up. You don't get a diploma for just showing up. You've got to do the work, right? And so drag that idea into the chat, or maybe the discussion board will be a good place for it. That sounds like a good discussion board, doesn't it? All right, back to this idea. Remember, we showed that picture of the fighter pilot and the dude snorting cocaine. Locus of control. Who's in control? Is it internal? Me? Is it external? Somebody else? And I submit that you should own your successes, be proud of them. Yes, don't scream at the top of the mountain how great you are, because people that do that are covering up for their failures, and I find them annoying and terrible leaders. But own your failures as well. Learn from them. Don't blame it on somebody else. If somebody else had a part in it, maybe you don't rely on them to do that job anymore. Maybe they get fired if you're a leader, because I can't rely on them. But ultimately, the buck stops with you. Do we see this blame others idea in our culture and in our politics? The word is absolutely we do. Now, I'm not going to throw mud at all of them, but in our culture, it seems to me few people want to accept blame for something going on. If it goes wrong and you're the leader, own it. You get chewed out by your boss, yes, sir. It's my responsibility. Now you go back to your folks, explain what went wrong. Don't chew them out, and hold that thought too for a second. But let's work together, folks, to get better. Here's another concept. I mentioned this briefly in one of the previous videos, the locus of control idea. This isn't confusing. If you think in and X, internal, external, intrinsic, extrinsic, use the same kind of idea. Motivators. What makes you do your job to the best of your ability? Now look, I get that if you're just you're fresh out of high school and you're working at Wendy's. There's a whole lot of students I see at GNTC working in fast food. Nothing wrong with that. Do it the best you can, but I would submit that most people's career goals are not to work at Wendy's. Maybe own a few Wendy's, maybe. So intrinsic, internal, pride in a good job. Back to that circle of success idea. That's what drives me. That and fear of failure is another motivator I have personally. I don't want to fail, so sometimes I go over the top on preparation. But I'd rather that than kind of, shoddy, half-assed preparation and do a bad job. Whereas extrinsic, external, probably the most common you could think of would be money. Right? If you do a job you don't like, you probably do it because you got to pay the bills. Is there a fear of punishment, fear of being yelled at? If you work for a tyrant as a boss, most people just do their job so you don't get yelled at. Just keep your head down, get the job done. That's a heck of a way to live, right? We don't want to live our lives that way. So the question becomes, which is longer lasting, which is more effective? And I would argue that the internal, the intrinsic motivators stick with you far longer than extrinsic. If you hate your job and you get a small pay raise, you may hate it a little less for a few weeks, but that hate my job feeling is going to come back. Whereas if you like it, and look, you've heard the saying, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. That's BS. And I love teaching, but there's still days that aren't the greatest. But I like teaching, and my days are overall better. So yeah, that's true. Just don't feel like every day is going to be puppies and unicorns, right? Sunshine and rainbows. Internal motivation, intrinsic motivation is longer lasting and more effective when it comes to motivation. And that keeps you going. So here's that pearl of wisdom I hit at, and I'll throw a few more of these in as we get to the leadership discussion. When you're the boss, not if, but when you're the boss, somebody does a good job, praise them in public. Tell them good job in front of everybody. If they get, employee of the month, whatever it is, if they get an award, do that in front of the crew. It does two things. It makes that person feel good about it, but the rest of them go, you know what, darn, I want to get that next time. Punish them in private. If they do something wrong, now I don't mean like beat them with a 2x4, but if people do something wrong, you need to tell them, what did you do wrong and why? And here's how to do it better. Don't do that in public. If you flame somebody, you bite their head off in public, and everybody's maybe not circled around you, but they're listening, this guy's a tyrant. They're going to keep their head down, and you're going to lose the inputs from people. If you say good job, you're going to get inputs. People want to be part of the team. If you bite people's heads off, they're going to cut you off from information. And something may be going severely wrong in your organization, and you've chewed people out for things, you're not going to get that input. Somebody out there probably has the solution to what's going wrong. And you've cut off that flow of information, that communication network, because you're being a tyrant. Praise folks in public, punish in private. And one more while I'm at it. If you're the boss and the big boss, the CEO, the president of the company comes down to award your organization, your piece of the business, some kind of big award, don't stand up in front of your people and go, yeah, man, I did this. Man, ain't I great? You go, these are the people that made this happen. That's sort of the praise in public idea. Don't soak up all the sunshine. Deflect the sunshine to the people working for you. They will love you, and they will go above and beyond for you. If you soak up all the sunshine, they're going to go, why am I busting my butt for this jerk who takes all the credit? Okay. That's an intro into leadership discussions we're going to have. All right, I know this is a little bit small here. In the slides, it's a little better, but it has this idea of circle of concern, circle of influence. Concern, a synonym for that would be worry, things I worry about. Whereas influence is things I can do something about. And if you find yourself stressed out, probably you have these circles out of whack. You're worrying about a whole lot of stuff, and you feel like you can control this much, or maybe none. What you want to do is a couple things. Try to bring more things into the circle of influence, what I can do things about, and get rid of some of the things you're worrying about if there's nothing you can do about them. Right? And that moves into that. Remember we talked about dependence, independence, interdependence. Internal locus of control, circle of influence. What can I do things about? These all go together. So it helps you move in that direction. So I made one that's a little bit bigger. This is that first one where the two circles are kind of out of whack. Do you worry about things you can't influence? And if you look at that, and again, in the class, I'd ask people, what do you see on here that you maybe can get rid of? Your kid's IQ. Well, if your kid's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, he or she is probably going to have to study more, and maybe you can do some work with them to help. Okay? But some of the ones on here that I would throw away, one is your past. And who doesn't kind of worry about, man, I failed this or I did this wrong? If there's nothing left you can do about it, hopefully you learn something from it and then move on. So try to get rid of some of those things you tend to worry about. Make that circle of influence bigger, the circle of worry, the circle of concern smaller. And there's always stuff. Look, I worry about the world situation, what's going on. I worry about our politics and the division within this country. Is there anything I can do about it? Maybe. My wife keeps telling me, shut up and run for office. I'm like, man, my ethics aren't for sale. But, who knows? Maybe I'll finally get over the fence and do that, try to do something about it. Anyhow, as you go through step 2, one of the sections has a series of 3 links, and they take you to surveys about how you learn, how your brain works, that kind of thing. The what animal are you? It's super long. Do it if you want, but the other 2 about your learning styles, that kind of thing, those are useful, and that's part of why college as well, to learn more about how your brain works, what you think, why you think that way. And my approach to this stuff, I will never tell students what to think, but I'll try to get them to think more clearly how to think, how to see through BS, how to be objective. This idea of critical thinking we'll get to later in the class. That's kind of the buzzword for college, but I would submit half the professors out there don't even know what it means, right? It's a multifaceted thing. It's not a definition. The note-taking section, given just a little into the textbook as we start off here. It's not super exciting, taking notes, but it's very good, and it gives a couple different styles of note-taking. My note-taking, I like actual textbooks. And the reason why is, one, I like to read paper copies, not on a computer screen, but it also allows me to write notes and highlight and do things in the margin, and that's my note-taking style, right? And like words of the day, maybe jot those down for notes, because again, it'll make it quicker for you to take the online quizzes. There's a link to how the brain works. Okay, I'm going to use that as a jumping off point, and we're going to get into some ideas about habits, how the brain works, short-term, long-term memory, that kind of thing. So those go hand in hand. It'll be, I think, the next video, probably, maybe third one after this one. And then this reading to comprehend, if you look at that, it's like, yikes, I got to read the thing 3 times. There's a huge time element to the style that the textbook describes. If you have the time to do it, great. What I would say is for your major, when you're going to be getting into your professional classwork, and there's stuff you need to know to be a competent radiologist, that's when I'd go into the more for comprehension and taking notes. And then as you get into your career and start using those, they'll become more and more and more embedded in your brain so that you don't have to go back and refer to them. But when you're in that learning curve, look, anything in the medical field, you don't want to be a hack at it because it involves people's health and their lives potentially. So that's part of being a professional. And that's what the part I'm going to end with today, the idea of pro. And it'll be fairly quick, but a couple examples from a few of my favorites. The idea for going pro, remember in the intro I said, I don't expect you guys to be perfect, but I want you to strive for perfection. Always try to get better. Professionals do that. And when I ask this, I say, okay, give me an example of who's a pro. What career field out there? I say they're professionals. What comes up? Professional athletes always come up, and rightly so. Doctors, yes, because they have life and death in their hands sometimes. Lawyers come up. I'll save that rant maybe for another time, maybe not at all. Some certainly are. I mean, I've had to avail myself of lawyers a couple times, but I'm not a big fan of the ambulance chasers on TV. Strive to be perfect. So who do you think of? Beyond athletes and doctors, there's others out there. I would argue it doesn't matter what you do. You can be a professional. I think teachers can be professionals. Unfortunately, a few treat it like it's just a job. Right? There's a difference between a job and a profession, a job and a career. Work to improve, said that. If you read about some of the best folks, whatever they are, in whatever career field, they are never satisfied with where they are. They may be called the best drummer in the world. And you know what? That best drummer in the world kept trying to get better. That's how he stayed on top. The best golfer, the best basketball player, the best doctor. They're always learning more. There's new stuff being discovered all the time. There's always room to improve. That's the mark of a professional. So you going into cosmetology, you going into radiology, you becoming an accountant, you can be a professional. In fact, I hope you will. It's important. We got too many hacks in this world, too much mediocrity. So here's one example. Martin Saint Louis, right? He's from Quebec. He's a hockey player. Ever heard of him? I've never had a student say yes, right? Many people don't like hockey, and he's been retired for a while. That's Marty. I got to meet him when I lived in Tampa. I got to meet all three of these guys. I'm a huge hockey fan. Marty's in the middle. What do you notice? Marty's a little guy. Hockey players are enormous, and man, do they skate fast. That's him, 5'8", undrafted. He got picked up kind of on a whim by a team called the Calgary Flames, and then got cut, and he got picked up by Tampa. When I lived in Tampa, that's when I met him. The quote was, "You're too small for the NHL. You're too small. You're too dumb. You're too this and that." Remember that slide? Who decides how you react to that? You do. So what did Marty do? He did this. That's his resume. Pretty good for somebody that was too small and undrafted. 17-year NHL career. He's now in coaching. Impressive. And he was a cool guy. He didn't have a huge ego. He just sit and talk with you. One more. This is a busy slide. This is, unfortunately, Neil Peart, who passed away last year. He was arguably the best drummer on the planet. Now, that's subjective. I understand that. But he was awful good. So here's the one I was talking about at the beginning. You've got 4 links, those 4 Blue Star videos. The first one, it's a song called Tom Sawyer. You can listen to it. You don't have to. Look, I know most people aren't going to enjoy this music. It's not their cup of tea. But the second one is the one I want you to look at. It's an interview. It's short. It's only about 4 minutes long. It's actually a piece of an interview. And he talks about continually trying to get better. And that's why not only I like the music, I like his approach. And again, he passed away, unfortunately, from cancer. And then the last 2, I would ask that you watch just at least the first couple minutes of this, because in the interview he talks about improv and getting better in his drum solos. And this link is a link to a drum solo. Look at his drum kit. It's even bigger than the one I've got pictured here. He has to climb under to get to it, and it spins around because he plays different sections of it at different times. And then the last video, again, if you find that, hey, I kind of dig this music, which most of you won't, it's a song called Caravan. These are 3 guys. It's a 3-piece band, or were. And the amount of music, if you watch closely, the bass player, he's playing the bass, and he's also playing these foot pedals with his feet. It was unbelievable. I saw him in concert probably 6 times. Unfortunately, probably never see him again. Okay, next class is in step 2. This sums us up, right? Getting toward the 45-minute mark. Not too bad, I guess. Here's what we're going to get through in step 2. And some of these will be paired together or combined. We're going to look at paradigms. Paradigms are the windows of how we see the world. And it kind of goes back to that pyramid and how we think about things. And we're going to look at how our brain works. Because if you understand how your brain works, you can understand why habits are so important. And we'll talk about that. I've got a brain chart and a breakdown of our memory. Short-term, long-term, what are the pieces of? And you can have some fun with that as well. So I'll ask some fun questions. Fun, right? That's fun in class. But it demonstrates how our brain is often on autopilot, that we really don't think deeply, that we don't do critical thinking. We don't take knowledge and make it wisdom. You ever been driving somewhere and you're halfway there and you go, oh, I'm supposed to be going somewhere else. You were on autopilot to wherever it is you go most often. You go, and I got to turn around and go where I was supposed to go because your brain was in la la land. It's that way a lot. So is mine. Okay? The power of habit. You're going to get sick of me saying it. Some visual illusions on how the brain works and how 3 different people can see the same car accident, the same whatever it is, and have 3 different explanations and descriptions of what happened. because we saw it differently. And I'll introduce this idea of priming. And again, it's a video. It's kind of cool how that works. And then 1 or 2 sessions on leadership. It depends how they go. I may be able to just combine it with putting little pieces in each of the next few videos. But leadership, I think, is critical. And right now, look, without going off on a rant, I've seen a lack of leadership when it comes to how this nation and how different states have tried to attack the COVID epidemic, pandemic, right, across the globe, not just epidemic. I just can't wrap my head around it, because to me they're not acting like leaders. They're trying to feather their own nest and make their name more prominent or something. Look, quick history lesson, bear with me. The primary function of government is protection of its citizens. If you keep that in mind, either local, state, federal, the government's there to protect us. And that doesn't just mean have an army and a navy and an air force. It means protect us from meat. Like back the last turn of the century, there was a book called The Jungle. The meatpacking industry was grinding up moldy, rotten meat, sweeping crap off the floor and just dumping it in and grinding it up. That's where the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, came from, the Pure Food and Drug Act, to protect the citizens from malfeasance by businesses. I'll just leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll go off on a 20-minute rant. And remember this, too. Remember, the textbook's only the start. Read it so you understand the stuff that we're talking about. I'm not going to read the textbook to you. You can do that. And go back to the spider chart. If time is of the essence, and it almost always is, at least look at those big ideas so you have some idea of what's going on, what we're talking about. So that wraps us up. Oh, I went over 45. I was trying to get done by 45. So into step 2, first video. I'll leave it at that and see you next time.